Hey, bro, you're muted. There you go.
Hey, welcome back to the Hawkzone Rundown. Huge technical difficulties starting off this show, so hopefully we got all those out of the way. But we are live. Guys, flood your comments and questions because we're going to get a Q&A portion coming up the latter half of the show. But we're weeks away from the draft. So it's mock draft season here, and we're going to have our own mock draft 7-rounder. But before that, we're going to get into a few other things. We're going to get into some contract talk, just break down the final numbers of the headliner guys: Cooper Kupp, Sam Darnold, DeMarcus Lawrence. Break that down for you guys. Get into a few other things, and then mock draft. Get you guys chiming in as we go along, and then we'll take your Q&As. So that's going to be on the other side. But before we get to that, guys, if you haven't subbed yet, go down, subscribe to the channel, share the videos, like the videos, and all that stuff. And it's another good way to support the channel is you can buy us a coffee too. All that helps out the channel. So on the other side, it's mock draft time.
So y'all can sit here and ask me all the questions y'all want to.
Don't you ever talk about me.
Yeah, let's go. It's go time, baby.
Here comes Gino, steps up, takes that shot to the end zone. It is Metcalf, 20.
I'm just about that action, boss.
You about to go get it. You just like to do it.
That's what it is.
Off me.
Nobody in the world can do it.
Are you kidding me? Trying to do that. Pass is caught back in. Jackson Smith is Jigba. The circus music rolls in. Throw it forward. Oh my goodness, he caught it. By the Leonard Williams.
This is the Hawkzone Rundown with your hosts, Ryan and Bryce.
Guys, we are back in the Hawk Zone. Bryce, you know what? It's been it's eventful offseason so far for the Hawks. Things have slowed down a little bit since that first wave of free agency. We're kind of getting into draft mode now. Guys are really sort of putting their mocks together. Sort of, a lot of guys are really diving into the prospects, and that's exactly what we've been doing and doing, our research. I know you do it all year, but now it's time to sort of, once this first wave is over, it's kind of okay, the pieces are in play, and now you can kind of maybe get more of an accurate feel for how this draft might fall.
Yeah, you start to get somewhat of an idea. And again, the draft's in its own living organism. It changes constantly. It's never going kind of thing that I love to deal with and love to, invest my time into and study. And so, yeah. And like you said, once that first kind of wave of free agency hits, you get through a bit of the first of that second wave. And once you realize most of the starter quality players are off the board in free agency, then teams really turn their view to the draft. John Schneider mentioned that on his show the other day that, they're still dealing with the free agency part, but really they're reworking their board again. They're going through that. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm reworking my list of guys that I think really fit the Seahawks, taking their scores that they get at their pro days and stuff, matching it with tape. And this is the part for me that I really enjoy is this last 4 weeks or so up until the draft is where you really start to see guys and get an idea of where teams might go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we looked, going into free agency, everybody was like, well, trenches. And, we traded both DK Metcalf and Geno Smith. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, we got all this money in play. Like, let's go just fill every problem imaginable on that offensive line and get it done, and that's easier said than done. And, a lot of times too, first of all, the market wasn't great. A lot of people have said, hey, this wasn't a great free agent class. There was a couple guys on our wish list. And sometimes that just doesn't work out. You talk about a guy even like Fries that, they were ready to sign and Minnesota gave him a 5-year deal. So I'm cool with that. Like I'm not about to hang my hat on that. So sometimes you get outbid with contracts like that. And then, other times like a Dahlman, maybe he just didn't want to come to Seattle. So it's not, I don't think it was a lack of effort. It might've just been a lack of availability in the market in itself. So, that's why we look ahead to the draft and say, okay, you know what? There's still some needs. You're not going to check every box off. And I think that's how it is. But let's talk about before that. Let's get into some of the contracts and the numbers now that have been put out there, guys that we did sign in the offseason, specifically a couple of big headliner names. Start with Sam Darnold. Why don't you break down that contract for everybody? And
Yeah, so the contract numbers have finally come out. It took a while for them to come out, but when you look at it, really, like, and you look at Sam's deal, it's a 3-year deal, $100.5 million deal over 3 years. But the key parts of this is Seattle can really get out of this after this season. If Sam Darnold totally shits the bed and they draft a guy, say they take a Will Howard or one of these guys that they fall in love with and really shows he can be the next guy, they can get out of this deal with not a big dead cap hit going into 2026. So basically for 2025, the breakdown is his base salary is about $5.3 million. His signing bonus, which is $32 million, is prorated over the contract. So it's basically a $6.4 million cap hit. So you add that onto that 5. Now you're looking at, 11. He gets a $200,000 workout bonus and another bonus of like $1.5 million, likely a roster incentive base. I'm not exactly sure what they've deemed it as. So his overall cap hit in 2025 is roughly about $13.5 million. That's base plus his prorated signing bonus and any other incentive and base bonuses that are attached to it. So when you look at that, you have a quarterback that's coming off a pretty significant breakout season, basically playing for under $15 million, which is awesome. That's a great way to structure your cap because you did take a cap hit with Gino's trade of about, I think, what was it? I've got it written down here. Let me have a look. So yeah, you took about a $13.5 million cap hit or dead money hit from Gino's trade to the Raiders. So you basically washed it. Darnold's contract is essentially the wash of the Gino dead cap money. So it's not a bad way. The key thing here too, the structured notes of it is like $17.5 million of Darnold's 2026 base salary becomes fully guaranteed the Friday after the Super Bowl. So when the Super Bowl ends, if Seattle likes what Sam did and want to keep him, $17.5 million of his contract in 2026 becomes guaranteed, providing a Seattle with an out after 2 years if needed. If terminated after 2026, the team would incur a 19.2 dead cap hit in 2027, having paid $66.7 million over 2 years. So, like, when you look at the structure of that contract, you really kind of just, okay, we went and got 7 years younger with a good quarterback that if he does really well and excels and pushes his ceiling even farther, and we see, big seasons coming, playoff wins, all that kind of stuff, it's not hard to restructure him again because he'd still be just under 30 by the time you would sign that deal. So this is a really team-friendly Seahawk deal right now, the way John Schneider and them have constructed it.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of before these numbers came out, that's sort of what we thought, that this was a really good signing because of the age and because of the length, and then it was just the numbers getting worked out. But like you said, we're gonna come up. We're going to do a mock soon here. And that was the interesting thing. Before this all happened, when Geno Smith was still in the roster, the question was, this got to be the year now. We draft a quarterback this year. Now, I'm not so sure. We'll see because of the class it is. I know we talked about, you get some value in the later rounds. But they might say, okay, well, the way the board falls to us and we have other needs. And, people look at the next year's draft saying, hey, it's a little stronger class. Maybe he goes there. And when you combine that with John Schneider's drafting of quarterback history, it's going to be interesting. I now would be more surprised to see a quarterback. Maybe not surprised, but I'm not expecting it. Like if we get one and one fits and you can bring him to camp, and sure, that's great. But like you said, it's kind of that win-win, right, with Darnold, because, hey, man, if he breaks out and you got to re-up later on, great. Maybe he is the guy. He can turn into that guy. He's that sort of hybrid bridge kind of feel. Like, okay, he's the bridge, but his ceiling is sort of unknown. Whereas Geno's, you knew the ceiling. Like the ceiling was there. So that was your like true bridge. But yeah, so man, it's just a great contract, especially with quarterback markets in the year he came off. So yeah, man, I'm excited. When we break into the Cooper Kupp, interesting contract.
Yeah, so Kupps is another interesting one. So basically, you look at it like he got everyone freaked out. They thought it was the 15 million. But there's a lot of flexibility in the way that it's constructed. Again, he's not really making the total pure right out of the gate. There's a lot of bonuses attached to it, a lot of injury kind of incentives, like how many games you're playing, how many games you're starting. The way I look at Cups is it's more of a 2-year deal than it really is a 3-year deal. And I think that's kind of the way it was structured. But the thing that was really funny, and when diving into this one, because some of the specifics are out, but not all of the way it's broken down just perfectly yet, is the Rams basically, if Cup got signed for over $5 million, because they had basically a $5 million dead cap hit on the remaining part of Cooper Kupp's deal, if he signed for a team with over $5 million per year, he was basically like, that was going to be like, and when I say that, I mean like the base was going to be over 5. He was basically, the Rams got off the hook of having that dead cap hit. Well, Seattle literally signed him to within 10 grand of that. So it's like 4.999 something to get within that. So the Rams are still on the hook for that dead cap hit. And that is like the most petty thing. I love it. John Schneider and Cooper Kupp did, because it kind of gets the Rams again into a situation. I guess it's only $5 million, but still $5 million in dead cap that you can't use this year. And, that's just one of those things. So again, Cooper Kupp's deal, it's really team friendly. It's very, very, flexible. And again, it's front loaded more than it is back loaded. So you can get out of it again easier. And so this is another situation that they've done.
Yeah, no, I mean that is funny. That is a funny move by Schneider. But I mean, look, that's the thing. And we talked about Cooper Kupp, how it's really not gonna affect the cap much at all, this signing. So, but hey, man, if you can save money there too, it's good. I like the Kupp sign, like you said, incentive based too there. I just think, yeah, man, if this guy can stay healthy, he is still a legitimate player in this league. So, I look at it too, like, man, you when you trade a guy like DK Metcalf, you can't just turn around and replace him.
No.
Like, it just doesn't work like that. So I think that's what people are expecting. Like, oh, you signed an injury prone guy on north of 30 years old, and what are they doing? They get rid of Geno and DK, and what's the direction? And I think people got to understand too, like, this was a clear reset, especially on the offensive side of the ball. It was a clear reset. Now, you got to look at the defensive side of the ball and say, listen, this is a defense that Mike McDonald wants to make a number 1 defense in the NFL. Now, they were a top 10 unit in the second half of last year, and there's no reason to believe we can't get down to a top 5. This could start becoming our identity. You reset the offense, and you're bringing a Darnold, and you bring in a new OC and offensive line coach. It's a reset. So let's just be better than last year and let this defense take over. So I like the Kupp deal. Yeah, another just good contract for the Hawks. You're not breaking the bank, because he is who he is, north of 30, injury history, but there's upside with this guy. And you and I talked about it too. Just going to be great for a guy like JSN too, a great locker room guy. So, I know Tyler was a great locker room guy, but here's another great locker room guy and a guy with Super Bowl experience. So, yeah, man, let's move over to on the other side of the ball.
So, yeah, I'll get into DeMarcus Lawrence.
Yeah.
So, when it was released, it was a 3-year, $42 million deal. Well, in the 2025 breakdown of it, it's a $5.15 million base salary. He gets a signing bonus of $6.6 million, and it's prorated over 3 years. So basically, a $2.2 million cap hit per year per the signing bonus. He gets a per roster game bonus of like $850,000. So essentially works out to $50,000, or sorry, not 50. Yeah, $50,000 per game for 17 games. And then his cap hit breaks down totally is approximately $8 million this year. That's all DeMarcus Lawrence's cap hit's going to be. That's your base, plus that prorated $2.2 million, and plus your per game roster bonus. So again, Seattle has protected itself against a situation where this player struggles, he gets injured, whatever. You're not losing a massive amount of money in investing in this individual, but the upside of this player is quite good. Like, if DeMarcus Lawrence is on, he's one of the better run defending edges in the NFL still. He may not be there as a pass rusher, but he can still give you enough as a pass rusher that he's going to have a ability to affect the game. So structure notes of it a little bit. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler. He missed most of last year with a foot injury. Again, Seattle is very diligent, and this is the same thing I should have said with Cooper Kupp. Seattle is extremely diligent with injury stuff now, like more so than they've ever been, because they've gotten burned, whether that be Rashad Penny's injury history and other guys. So when you look at when Seattle brings in a guy that's had an injury plagued background, they're going to make sure that all the medicals check out. They're going to go really in depth with it. But again, this again is a very incentive-based contract by the way it's structured. So again, you bring in a guy, he adds a veteran leader, a guy that loves football. He obviously made the interesting comment when it came to Dallas and how he felt about leaving Dallas there with Brian Nimhauser on Hawk Blogger on his interview with him. So again, the one thing I can say about all three of these guys is there's definitely a dynamic shift a little bit in, okay, you brought guys in on kind of almost like prove it deals rather than, hey, it looks initially like we're shelling out a bunch of money, but we're really bringing it out to guys that love ball and still want to prove they have something to give the game, which is, in my opinion, a great value for Seattle. And I'm just going to bring up one comment here from one of our members here in Dogzilla Monster. Love having you, Batman. He goes, is John Schneider prioritizing cheap over talented? I don't know if that's how I would look at it. I think what they're doing is they're making a organizational shift, not from necessarily talented, but more to guys that have the mentality that fit in this building now. The mentality in this building has changed. You listen to a lot of the Seahawks beat reporters and everybody talks about how it's different in there than it was with Pete. And I think some of the guys you see that aren't here anymore, the DKs, the Genos, there may have been, and it may not ever get really published about it and really put out there, but I think there was a bit of a just disagreement on how things should go. You listen to DK on the Got pod with Marshawn and Mike Robb. He kind of alluded to how he felt like an outsider. And, him and Gino and Dixon and Myers were really the only carryover guys, and Tyler, and how they felt different once Mike got in the building. So I don't think you're going from cheap or talented discussion, because Sam Darnold's a talented quarterback. He was the number 3 overall pick. DeMarcus Lawrence was, again, another highly drafted player. So was Cooper Kupp, taken in the second round. You're not going and getting, if MVS was the only receiver that they had signed, I would feel more in that conversation with you there, Dogzilla, that, hey, they really went and got a cheap guy and they lost a bunch of talent. Cooper Kupp is still a very talented receiver. But what you're doing is you're also bringing in guys that I think fit their culture that they're going for more now. And that's where you're seeing this go in this direction this offseason.
Yeah, and at the same time, when you look at free agency as a whole, I mean, when guys hit that free agency, you're talking about a lot of guys that are 30, 29, 31, so it's, with maybe some injury history and stuff like that. And if you're getting a guy who's 27, like a DK Metcalf, then you're paying for it, right? So you look at what we did, like you said, you have a lot of upside here, but you still have, you look at this roster as a whole, and I get, obviously the offensive line was not addressed. And I think that's sort of the big thing that people are still like, throwing their hands up in the air. I think, look, at the end of the day, if we would have just signed one of those guys, and I'm not saying that, he dropped the ball or anything like that, but if you did say Drew Dahlman came here, for example, I think this would be a sort of a moot conversation with the Cooper Kupps and DeMarcus Lawrence, because you'd be focused on a Dahlman and be like, okay, John spent that money and now he's just added some nice pieces. Great. Cooper Kupp's here. Great. DeMarcus Lawrence here. Wow. He's a great run defender when healthy, like really good. And then you look at who else we have there on the edges, the Chenas, the Halls. We got a lot of good players here. So that's why you look at the draft now and you have a lot of picks, the most picks in the top 100. So here's his time to say, okay, let's start adding to this. And, it's a reset on the offense as well, like you said, and a mentality. And to your point with the get caught, yeah, it's not that it's like, DK, and sometimes that's just how it goes. You're used to a certain way. And I know people threw it through the comments and like, well, dude, you went through different OCs with, Waldron and Shoddy, but Pete was the guy.
It was the messaging. It
was Pete's message. And he even messaged that, like just his Pete's specific message. And you know what? Hey, I respect that. If you're used to one way and you're not really feeling the other way, and you're sort of this point in your career, you're like, hey, I might have a few good years left. I'll go try something else. Now, I don't know who's going to throw him the football, but that's going to be that. I want to see that. That's going to be interesting to see, and not getting away from this conversation. But yeah, so that's all it is, man. So you got these guys, but I really feel like that because we didn't get that O-line dealt with, that I think that's sort of like people are like, what is he doing? And they might be right. So we'll see. This draft's gonna be interesting. There's a lot of questions here coming in. But yeah, man. Let's hit on. I know you want to hit on one more topic.
Yeah, we'll hit on one more topic before we get into this 7-round mock. So Ben Slowick of ESPN came out with his team free agency rankings, and generally, I've really liked Ben's work. It's been good. It's been informative. The thing for me that with Ben is he was very much a big Geno Smith supporter and pounding the table. I liked Geno. I thought Geno did a phenomenal job here in Seattle, but team went in a different direction. And so anyhow, with this, Ben brought out his list of teams that, top team, best free agency, all the way down each team. And as I started going through this list, some of them made sense to me. And then some of them I was just flabbergasted. And I kept looking, okay, where's Seattle? Seattle's going to be probably in the teens, right? They're going to be in that 15 to 20 range, I figured. There weren't going to be a top 10 free agency. You lost a bunch of guys. But, they're going to be in there somewhere. And so I start going through, and so like number 1's Buffalo, and number 2's the Rams. And, number 3 is Minnesota after all the money they've spent on their offensive line. And, you keep going down. And now you get into like number 6 is Cincinnati. And I'm going, okay, they brought Jamar Chase back and T. Higgins, but you spent a lot of money. And your defense was your biggest issue last year. It wasn't your offense. It was your defense. And, and then I keep going down and I see, Vegas. And I go, okay, Vegas in the top 10 and they're number 8. Yes, they've added Geno Smith, but they added like Alex Kappa, who's not a great, O-lineman. He's okay, but he's not great. They re-signed a Max Crosby. When I think of free agency, I think of guys you brought in from other teams, not necessarily what you re-signed in your building. And then when I got to 9, I see New England. And I'm like, okay, Milton Williams is their big thing. Yes, they got Stephon Diggs, but really Milton Williams was their big signing in Harold Landry. Milton Williams hasn't proved he can be in, down in and down out D tackle. And I'm going, okay, so they're number 9. And as you go through this list and you get down to, 13's the Arizona Cardinals. And again, I'm going, what has Arizona done that's so fantastic? They brought in Josh Sweat and they re-signed Evan Brown, who we let go of here. And then, Chicago at 15, I think what Chicago's done this free agency has been phenomenal. Like, you get Drew Dahlman, yes. And Drew Dahlman very much wanted to go to Chicago. He wanted to be in Ben Johnson's system. That's something I do know for a fact and have been told is like, as much as people think Drew Dahlman was really, potentially an option for Seattle, Drew Dahlman had it set in his mind he wanted to go play in Chicago for Ben Johnson. But, you trade like basically, I think it was a 6th round pick in 2026 for Joe Thuney or a 4th, 5th, or 6th round pick for Joe Thuney, an all-pro guard. Yes, I get his age, but he's still an all-pro guard. That to me was like, okay, like, they got Jonah Jackson, who again is from Ben Johnson's system, and he's probably going to play well at. Like, they did a lot of really good things in Chicago, and I thought they should have been higher. And then I'm looking at a team like the Colts, who brought in, they're at 16. So I'm going, okay, this is where I figured Seattle was going to be, right, man? Like, I was like, this is where what they did. Nope, nowhere to be found. So I'm going, okay, this is getting weird. Jacksonville's at 19. I'm going, Jacksonville's ahead of Seattle. I finally get to Seattle, and Seattle is all the way down at number 31. The only team below Seattle was the Atlanta Falcons. And I'm sorry, after I saw this list, I just looked at it and went, this is basically, to me, not even really doing your homework as a reporter. Like, you basically have gone out there and you are annoyed and pissed off that they did something you didn't like and didn't really look at that team and what they've done. Like, bringing in a Sam Darnold and a DeMarcus Lawrence and a Cooper Kupp. Yes, I get they're not DK Metcalf. I get Cooper Kupp's not DK. Like we alluded to, he's not. But they went in and added good quality veteran talent, redid their cap hit. So this is what he basically wrote. He goes, the I loved part. I loved this class. If we had a time machine and it was 2020, Cooper Kupp is a dominant receiver 1. Lawrence still has legs as a pass rusher. Jaron Reed has emerged as a solid starting defensive tackle. MVS is still dangerous down the field stretcher. They don't really talk about Darnold as much. Seattle's approach of downgrading at quarterback while loading the roster with aging veterans simply doesn't jive. There are a couple of deals that seem solid. If Jones is healthy, Ernest Jones, he'll deliver. But overall, this team spent tons of money on players with substantial risk factors. Well, we kind of just broke down the contracts. They didn't spend a shit ton of money. Realistically, they didn't. And then he goes, what I didn't love, the inexcusable neglect on the offensive line. As the free agency dust settles, the worst unit league-wide is the Seahawks offensive line. The projected interior of Christian Haynes, Olu Oluwatimi, and a potentially Satawa Lamea cannot stand up against good interior pass rushers. The tackle position is only better when Charles Cross and Abe Lucas are both healthy, which isn't guaranteed. Even if every move General John Schneider made this offseason works, the ceiling of the Seattle squad will be capped by its inability to pass protect. Well, they couldn't pass protect last year, and we went 10-7. They couldn't pass protect the year before, and we went 9-8. So I don't get this. And again, you're picking at low-hanging fruit. Everybody knows Seattle's offensive line is bad. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that they're not a good unit and things weren't addressed. But also, this wasn't, again, we've heard Daniel Jeremiah and Lewis Riddick and all these other guys talk about this offensive free agency class. Really, it was Drew Dahlman and Will Friars, and that was it. Trey Smith never made it to the market like some people thought he would. And then everyone else is basically a journeyman level player. Well, I think what Seattle did was smart, and they traded away 2 players, got picks in the top 100 in a loaded interior offensive line class. Now the key thing is going to be drafting and developing them. They still may sign a free agent, or there may be a trade still on the potential. Maybe they trade for Benito or Wyatt Teller out of Cleveland because they went and signed Jenkins. But you even look at Jenkins' contract he signed in Cleveland. It is so injury based, and it's a 1 year of guarantee to 4 void years. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement of a player that you're super high on as a franchise. That, hey, we went out and got a guy. And I know that from what I've heard is that his medicals weren't the greatest, and there were other concerns about him in Seattle that they weren't thinking he was going to be a fit. Because, again, the one thing, if you listen to Clint Kubiak's press conference and you listen to Mike McDonald, there's one key term, and it's we want guys that are going to be tough, physical, and are going to want to be and love ball. Jenkins might not have checked off those boxes for them, and that's maybe why he wasn't here. So, anyhow, this was just my little rant. This article just kind of infuriated me the other day because I just thought it was such poor, breakdown and actually looking at something, and more of a vendetta because you're annoyed as a reporter that they got rid of players that you liked off a team.
Yeah, well, I mean, I get the offensive line part, but I mean the DK Geno things, that doesn't even have anything to do with free agency because we traded him. Right. So if you're mad that they traded Geno, it's not like he's a free agent. Like they could have had him on this roster for 1 more year. And I look at it like, I know that some people were upset at the trade. I look at that as you're resetting because this guy wanted an unrealistic number, right? And maybe that was because he just wanted to force his way out. I don't know if we'll ever know that, or maybe we'll know that later on. But at this point, you think, okay, maybe that number was just to force him out and get on the phone with Pete Carroll and get me over to Vegas, right? But I think that's how I look at it. I think the Seahawks helped themselves out to maybe you're not going to hit on all cylinders in this particular offseason, but you're resetting the offense, and you had to. DK, I would have loved if he stayed here. I can understand it, the money, I get it. But again, the Geno Smith thing, man, aging quarterback, wanted a ton of money. I'm not on board. I've said that before. I'm not on board with it. If you could have got it to a Sam Darnold level, cool. But again, then you really got to start hitting on your quarterback of the future thing. So, I think the Hawks are in way better shape. Now, did we nail this offseason? Not yet. But yeah, 31st is ridiculous. That's just an idiot reporter, like you said, that didn't do his homework. And sometimes being up in Seattle, man, you're not going to do. These guys don't do their homework because they're focused on the East Coast teams and the West Coast, especially Pacific Northwest. You just what O-line didn't do anything. F, right? Yeah. I mean that's just really how it goes. He look at that 30 seconds. They sign any O-line? No. Okay. Well, that's an F for them. I'm going to put them 31st. And then they
And
signed
the
a bunch of
one
guys
team
in
that
their
was
30s.
below them was the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I mean,
That was the-
like you said, I'd have them in the middle of the pack. You know, they
I think, yeah, like
filled some holes. I agree. I love the Bears, man. I mean, I wish, you know, you could change Bears to Seahawks, right? Because that was like, ooh, that looks cool, right? With that offensive line, that would be a great scenario for us. But again, you know what's going to be interesting? Let's see if that offensive line clicks. You know, it's easy to say, let's throw money at all these guys. Yeah, you traded for Tooney, you brought in, you know, all these guys, Dolman. Like we've seen it happen before. It's not automatic, man. That's a unit, right? That takes some time and everything that goes along with it. And look, it's a good situation to be in, but there's no guarantees. And I'm not saying that, you know, I wouldn't take that O-line, but like I said, let's just slow down. This is what it is. I think it was average. I think we did what we could do. The O-line wasn't great. And I know some people say, hey, just toss as much money as you can at Dolman. Overpay. I mean, that's a philosophy. But
it is. But think how many teams have done that and had success.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
saying in general.
I
right?
agree. I agree. I'm not saying that's the way to do it, but like, you know, I think people are just so like you and you and me are in the same boat. Like we went so many freaking years without doing anything. And people are at the point now where you're just like, just dude, give him whatever. And I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. And that's why, you know, we're over here. But I think that I'm just coming from where a lot of fans maybe are coming from. Like, this is the year where, like you and I talk about every week, like that heat on Schneider, like you got to fix this. So if Dahlman's available and this guy's bidding this, just I don't care, man. Give him as much money as he wants. Easier said than done. I get it, but I think that's where people are coming from, and that's it. So now, you know, like you said, there's some players in this draft, in interior and tackles and whatnot. That okay, we got to hit on something. You know, like we're not giving John a pass here. This is not like, oh, John, you're cool, man. Dahlman went to Chicago. It's probably because he just didn't want to come here, and it's not a John Schneider pass. It's like, okay, John, you loaded up on picks. You traded DK Metcalf. You know, you got in the top 100 there with another top 100 pick. You traded Geno Smith. You have another top 100 pick. Do something with it. Hit on it. Don't miss that center. You know, like we all talk about, and take a slot receiver. You know, so okay. You know, so with that behind us, let's get into some
so let's get into a mock draft here. So I'm going to bring it up. So what we'll do is, because we actually got through that stuff quicker than I thought, we'll do two. We'll do one where we do have some trades potentially, and one where we just pick straight away. So the first one, we'll just pick exactly how Seattle has their picks. No trades. We're taking guys exactly where they are, and we'll see how the board falls to us. So I'll put this up, and let me just find it here. There we are. And guys, keep getting your comments in here. And guys, you think you want to have us take, and we'll keep monitoring that throughout the chat. I got to throw one in here that's hilarious, because if you watch the John Schneider show, Dave Weinman, or I think it was Bob Stelton, brought up a really good comment, and I noticed one of our listeners put it in here. He goes, with the 18th pick, the Seattle Seahawks select Joe Mashegi, an O-lineman that doesn't exist. And it was hilarious, because when they brought it up, it was really funny on the show. I got to give Lewis credit there. That's a pretty good one, Lou. I like the fact that you remembered that from the show. Well done. All right, so let's get into this. So we're just going to take this, guys, as is, our picks, and we'll see how this board falls to us. All right, so we'll just quickly go over who's been off the board. So pick 1, Abdul Carter. Pick 2, Travis Hunter. Okay, so it sounds like, as we know, that Cam Ward is most likely going to Tennessee. Mason Graham, 3. McMillan, 4, who I know, Ryan, you're starting to fall in love with as a receiver prospect.
Yeah, but not at 4.
No. Ashton Genty is pick 5. One of my guys, Jahade Barron, who I love as a corner, goes to the Raiders. Will Campbell, the Jets. Tyler Warren goes to the Panthers. My top-rated O-lineman is Membu, and there he goes to the Saints. Starks, Jihad Campbell, Mike Green, Will Johnson, Ezra Zuka out of Boston College. Luther Burden here at 15 is interesting. I don't have that high of a grade on Burden, but some people love him, and I think he's a quite polarizing prospect. So here's the weird thing about this. Cam Ward is sitting there. We are not taking Cam Ward, chat, even if you put it in there. This is not realistic. Cam Ward will not be sitting at pick 18.
This is Cam Ward's going first overall.
So the interesting thing here with this is most people are going to scream go O-line.
Right.
And that's what most people, and Kenneth Grant going off the board and Mason Graham definitely make that, more prevalent. But if I look at the edge class here, Michael Williams is like my favorite edge. I love his game. And I think he's potentially a little bit underrated right now because he had a bad combine. He didn't have the greatest season. He had some injuries this past season, but before, if he'd come out last year, I'm pretty sure he would have been a top 10 pick. I look at this and I go, you can go, and I know there's some people in our chat that are going to say to take Emin Wari, the safety. He's not Cam Chancellor 2.0, guys. Like, I understand the comp because of his size and everything. There isn't another Cam Chancellor, just like there isn't another Sean Taylor. They are a special breed of safety. Cam was an intimidating factor. Nick Amamori, I think, is a better athlete and can do some other things in coverage that Cam maybe couldn't do. But comparing him to Cam just because of the size and some of his specs and what he does is, I think, misguided to an extent. So if I look at safety, though, and just bring it up here, because I do think they will take one, there's Nick Amamori, there's Xavier Watts. But I think I want to go, Josh Simmons is a pure tackle. He's not a tackle guard. Calvin Banks is there. If I go interior O-line, he's, you got Booker here. And so it's interesting. With John Schneider, and this is why I don't think Booker's going to end up being on Seattle's radar as much, was a comment he made when they asked him on a show about offensive line and how they're looking at things. And he mentioned Tom Cable and Alex Gibbs, who are the two O-line coaches that he's had familiar past history with this wide zone. And it's very scheme specific, the O-lineman that you're looking for. So I think a Tate Ratledge, a Luke Kandra, if we go to the other side and we look at tackle, a Gray Zabel, those are guys that, even Calvin Banks maybe, but those are guys I think we can get later on. So, we can get interior O-line, but getting a guy like a Michael Williams, for me at this point, is something I think that you're going to just add to this group of interior and cause more havoc for, Mike McDonald to create. So I think we take Michael Williams here.
Yeah, no, I like it too. And I think edge is a sneaky need. Like, you talk about, Chenna, and then you also talk about what are they going to do with Mafe, right? Yep. So, that's going to be a conversation that's going to be had as well. And, Derek Hall's a solid player. What's his ceiling? So, you want to keep bringing in those edge players. And I think, like I said, this identity is going to become Mike McDonald and his defense.
Yes.
Right. So there's no question that if a player like that is here, there's some serious thought, like, let's go to the podium. So yeah. Okay. Moving on.
We'll take Michael Williams and we'll see how the rest of this board falls. All right, so my favorite receiver, Jaden Higgins, is on the board here. And I think, again, we have two picks basically back-to-back. So Tyler Booker there you go. He goes to the Dolphins. So let's go take a look at O-tackle. So Donovan Jackson's there, and I love Donovan Jackson. He can move inside. He's a left guard that bounced outside this year for Ohio State when Josh Simmons got injured. Did a phenomenal job. I'm really there's three guys here for me that I really like. Donovan Jackson, Embo, and Savania. I think, and Savania has publicly come out and said he wants to play guard at the next level. Those three guys I think you can get in this range, and you're immediately adding a guy that could potentially be a starter day one. Like, you bring in Donovan Jackson, he is going to probably be one of your starting guards.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm going to take Donovan Jackson here. I think that's the right call.
Yeah.
And we get some flexibility. Okay, now we come back. And now we're sitting here, and this is the other thing. I think corner is a sneaky need for Seattle.
Mm-hmm. And now, so what about receiver as well?
Receiver, I can still potentially find someone in that third round. Like, if I look at the receiver group here, you got Trey Harris, Jalen Noel, Jalen Royals will probably be sitting there. Pat Bryant's another one that I like. Kyle Williams I really like. And again, we're not looking for a big receiver like DK. We're not looking for that guy. This is a different system now. You're looking for guys that can block and run really good routes, and that's what the system's bent on. And so that's what you're going to be looking for when they look at the receivers. The way they've looked at receiver before for Ryan Grubb's system and some of these other guys are big vertical threats down the field. That's not how this system's going to be built anymore with Kubiak. But the fact that at corner, when I go there, Azura Thomas is still there, you have to start thinking about, are you paying Reek Woolen or Devin Witherspoon? Because Reek Woolen is up at the end of this year, like we've talked about, Ryan. I think if
I don't
Azure
think
Thomas is there
at all.
I think Azure Thomas is a pick here for you.
I think no doubt you're drafting a corner in this draft. I think, I'm just interested to see what they do with Reek. Do they let him play it out?
I think you do. You let him play it out, and that way, like we've talked about, if you let him play it out, you're getting a 3rd round pick back for his comp value if he plays really well. That's fine for me. Like, you get a 3rd round pick. I'm good with that. Yeah. Or if something goes wrong and he wants out by the trade deadline, you might get something more by the trade deadline. But if you take a guy like Azure Thomas here, if you look at him as a player, he's 6'2", 198. He's only 20, so he's a young player. You're going to get a lot of years. He's quick-footed. He can play press man. The thing for me with him is you're not asking him to come in here and be, the guy. You're going to have Devin. You're going to have Josh Jobe and some of these other guys. But when I look at his stats, like even his run defensive grade is a 66, which is still good for a corner. Like he's going to come up and hit people. And you can move around. His snaps by alignment. He doesn't play in the slot. He is an outside corner. So you still have that Swiss Army knife with Devin Witherspoon. I think we take Thomas here because after this spot here, this cornerback group just drops off a cliff.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. I think it definitely is a need. So yeah, I don't even think you'd say it's a sneaky need anymore at this point, man.
No, it's a blatant need.
It's a need.
All right. So what we have picked so far, we have taken an edge and a top level edge. We've taken a guard that can swing tackle, but basically a starting guard. And now we've taken our corner of the future. So now let's look at receiver. Like you talked about, Ryan, receiver. So Jalen Noel's still here. I like Jalen Noel. I like Jalen Royals. Those are two guys I'm really high on as receivers. Noel, he's not as big. He's 5'11", 200, but he is a good blocker. Like he can come in and block. So that's one thing, that I like about him. But again, when I look, another guy that I really like is obviously Besh, and he's already off the board. So I want to have a look here because from this pick to this, we got 10 picks and then we're up again. I want to have a look and see what tight end is because like we've talked about, Harold Fanning Jr. is still sitting there. And I think he's an interesting prospect because he's a move tight end.
Yeah, I mean, like you're sitting in that, you're looking at the tight end room right now. I think man.
Like this is where it gets interesting, right? Now let's have one more look here. So Jordan Phillips is a good interior D lineman. I really like him. Savaniah is still there, which is interesting to me. Yeah. Do we reinforce again that O-line and take Savaniah along with a Donovan Jackson? That to me is a point where if I look at the tight ends, I go, okay, I can still get a Mitchell Evans, who's a good all-around tight end. Jackson Hawes is still there. Like, this is where it kind of gets interesting, for us. I know some people are going to be screaming for Jared Wilson at center. I understand that because he's sitting there and people have really taken to him. But I don't know if Seattle doesn't look at Sundell and Olu and they don't really like him. And he's, again, he was a 1-year starter. Yeah. So that's one thing for me where I kind of look at it. Like, I think he's going to be a guy that you're sitting for a few years. Like, we already have that potentially in a Jalen Sundell that we could potentially turn to. So, Ryan, what do you think? Do we go tight end or do we go interior O-line with a Savaniah?
I mean, if Savaniah is still there, I mean, I sort of will lean to that. Yeah, man, just because I just think you just keep adding to that room, right? And then you kind of start checking off some boxes there in this draft with the interior. I mean, what are your thoughts?
I think, Tate Ratledge is there, which I know a lot of people love too, but Savaniah has a mean streak to him that I like. Yeah. And that's one thing I think this line's going to need. They're going to need that mean streak. So Let's take Jonas Savanaia. We'll come back around here, and now we'll look at that receiver room. So again, I'm okay. There's some guys that have come off the board, obviously, in here. And so let's take a look at tight end. This is going to be an area. So Harold Fanning Jr. is still in. None of the tight ends have come off the board.
Right.
And this is where I think I'm going to have to go with Harold Fanning Jr.
Yeah, I agree.
So we'll take Harold Fanning Jr. And again, it says guards are an issue. We've addressed it with 2 players. Okay, so now we're around here in round 4. Now, QBs are at the top here. I like Chase Lund as a swing tackle, but I don't think this is where you take him. Let's look at linebacker because they need a linebacker in there. Cody Limbaugh's interesting. Danny Studsman's another interesting guy for me. But let's go and look at receiver here. So I like Pat Bryant or I like Kyle Williams here. Pat Bryant's a bit bigger. He's 6'3", 200. But he's a reliable blocker. And that's the one thing that's come through on his film is he will block.
Right.
And that's the thing for me where I look at it and I go, they're going to want someone in here that can block. He's a big guy. He's 6'3". So again, a guy that can learn from a Cooper Kupp. I think we go with Pat Bryant here and add him to the receiver room. And then we'll see where this falls now. Because now when we get to pick 5 here in this area, this again, we have 2 picks pretty close together.
Now we're looking at now you're looking at some QBs. I mean, we're not even thinking QBs. Like
Right.
after the Darnold signing, it was kind of like now it's not back burner for me, but you're like, it's not this like let's go get a dart and reach. It's like okay, see who's there. Like you said, now we're at round 5, and you got a guy. I know there's mixed feelings about him, but you got a guy in Quinn Ewers sitting there, and we know the history with John Schneider and all that.
Yeah.
I mean.
I think there's a good chance that I think the 2 highest rated, the 2 most likely quarterbacks that will be taken by Seattle are probably either Quinn Ewers or Will Howard.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, exactly. And if you're sitting this late in the deal, then Ewers is there. I mean, yeah, I just don't see why you wouldn't take him here, honestly.
So I want to
especially if John's still high on the guy.
We got another pick coming up, so I want to look at linebacker because we do need to address that.
Yeah, you're right. Because you talk. Well, I mean, we're almost back to back again.
Exactly.
So like Buffalo's not going to take him.
Mondon Jr. is rated way too low on PFF, and it's one of my biggest pet peeves of them. He should be way higher, but I really like Cody Lindbergh here. I think he's a guy Lindenberg can come in and be special teams to start and actually push for snaps eventually.
Right.
And if a Knight or a Jones were to go down, I think he can come in and, play a role. So we're going to take him right here. Okay, now we're back. So Quinn Ewers and Kyle McCord are here. I think you go realistically, if I'm thinking like personally for me, I'd go Kyle McCord, but I think John's going to go Quinn Ewers because of the Mike McCarthy connection. The reason I say Will Howard's also in play, Will Howard's QB coach right now is Jake Heaps, and Schneider is all about connections.
Yeah.
So we'll take Quinn Ewers here, and then we'll come back in the 6th round. And you know what? I want to look at receiver again because I think we need to add one more to that room. If I'm looking at receiver, it kind of falls off a bit of a cliff here.
Yeah.
There's some guys like, that you could potentially Rock Taylor's one guy. But let's go and look at the interior D-line and for a run stopper. Okay, so there's Thor Griffin, Nazir Stackhouse. Now this guy for me, Nazir Stackhouse, again, we're in round 7 here. We got 2 picks in this round. The reason I like Stackhouse is when you look at his size, he's 6'3", 320. He's a big dude. And, Ty Robinson is another one for me that I'm also really interested in. 6'6", 310. He's a guy for me, when I look at him, his run grade's high. He's not like his best sack season was this year, but he's not really known for it. But he is a very, very good A or B gap and over tackle player. Like, again, in this 3-4 scheme, you can move him a little bit. So let's take a Ty Robinson here out of Nebraska, and then we'll come back and see what we got left with this last pick. Okay, so if I'm looking, we've gone edge, guard, corner, guard, tight end, receiver, linebacker, QB. And you know what? I agree with a lot of people. I don't think Seattle is going to come out without taking a running back. Donovan Edwards is interesting. I like Woody Marks or Jaquavius Marks out of USC. He adds a little bit something different to the running back room. He can be a guy that can help in the kick return game. He can also be more of a pass catching back out of the backfield. And I love Kenny Mack, but they're not really using him in that role. They're using Kenny Mack as more of a change of pace running back. So let's take Jaquavius Marks right now, and we add to that running back room.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't see them not picking up a back, especially with this loaded, talented draft, and the fact that we'll see what they do with Ken Walker too, right? It's always good to add to that room and kind of see how it goes, man. Ken's got to have a healthy year too. So
this was our draft.
It's such a loaded room, right? So yeah, I mean, look, man. You look at let's go through the picks.
So again, we went edge first. We took a Michael Williams because he fell to 18. I don't think that's actually going to happen. I think he's going to go sooner.
Right. Donovan
Jackson, I could see potentially being there. Hopefully, again, there's a guard that you're plug and playing. Azare Thomas is the big one for me. Like that is, I think, a bigger need than people realize. At corner, we were able to get him there at the end of round 2 for us in our last pick. And then to come back and then again reinforce that interior line, go Jonas Savania. We got a tight end to come in that can be a mismatch piece for Clint Kubiak and Harold Fanning Jr. that you can use him like a Kyle Juszczyk. We got Pat Bryant at receiver, a big guy that can come in, can block well. We got a linebacker for depth and Cody Lindbergh. We took a quarterback. We took Quinn Ewers in the 5th round. Again, I don't think he'll be there. I think he's going to go higher. We took an interior D lineman to help out and Ty Robinson that we can move. And then we took a running back out of this loaded class. So, I'm not, again, a lot of these ratings to me are off. And so in our next one we're going to do here shortly, we're going to change this and we're going to use mock drafts, NFL mock draft simulator because it's a little bit more accurate. But I'm okay with this draft. And this one to me is an okay situation. I'm not totally upset with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I think you hit on the edge. You hit on a couple of interior linemen. Your receiver. I mean, it's not a crazy draft for receiver, but you're filling up that room. But I think before we get into final mock, we get into some Q&As here.
Sure, throw some
up before we get too far ahead of it. So let's just kind of few that kind of popped out at us early. Dogzilla Monster. Whatever the excuses or reasons are, the fact is that our O-line is the same guys after free agency. That was the worst O-line on the planet last year. And that just goes back to what I was saying as far as I think people are just like tired of it, right? And saying, John, you got to do something here. And, so I get it, man. I totally get it. And we're not sitting here making excuses for him. We're just trying to sort of go through and dissect maybe what is the process with, the Seahawks and Schneider, and especially after they've reset. And I get it. You just traded away 2 big pieces. So you even expected more. I mean, we expected it even if Gino and DK were going to be on this team. Like if they were to extend DK, we talked about how you could push that money and we thought, hey, that doesn't mean they're not going to address something in the interior. So I get the frustration. I really do.
I do as well. Like I get it. It's a decade-old problem now.
Yeah.
And so for me, that again, like I just it does have to change. There's got to be something that gives here, whether this new O-line coaching staff that's come in starts to develop our players, because that's been the other problem is they haven't developed guys. They've let guys walk who then they have developed to a point, go walk, and they go play well somewhere else. And that's where for me, like I really want to see the Seahawks start keeping these guys in-house after they develop them. Like if they develop a Christian Haynes or an Olu, or they bring in, a Gray Zabel or one of these guys, that they actually are able to, keep these guys in-house for more than their rookie contract. And then, you have continuity on the O-line. That's the biggest thing. It's not even so much where these guys get drafted. If they can play, they can play. But it's 5-1. And that's the biggest thing is Seattle hasn't had a 5-1 mentality for years.
No.
Like 2013 was the last time you had the 5-1 mentality.
Yeah, they're just sort of throwing guys in the mix and with sometimes like just different skill sets, right? So it's interesting, man. Here's one. How would we talked about culture. How would you guys describe the culture or desired culture in 2025? Thanks, guys. Go Hawks.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It is a
I
good
would
one.
say it's more of a lunch pail workman's mentality now.
Hard
there.
hats.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's come in. You have to love football.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good assessment right there. I think and I think it's sort of yet to be seen too. I think, you talk about Pete and some of the guys from that era, and now you really don't have any, right? You really don't have any. And Mike is, it was 1 year. It's hard to establish a culture in 1 year. So I think it's going to take time. And with that, take certain players that come and then go, and then new ones come in, and you're trying to form that. But I agree. I think it's lunch pail, hard hat, and especially on the offense side of the ball now with Kubiak and what he expects in his schemes. I think it'll be interesting. So we'll see how this draft goes. Do they draft similar type dudes that fit the culture, and then you start seeing it on the field as well. So, but yeah, that is a good question. Another one, the coaches will majorly impact the O-line. Yeah, that's a lot of truth to that. The thing is, it's just, yeah, we've heard that before. So I'm not going to put a ton of weight on it. You know what I mean? Like I have high hopes again. We had high hopes for Scott Huff. We had high, like the kind of the list goes down. I think you got to have the talent too, right? It's a mix. So, yes, you have some developmental guys. Can those guys be developed from with any coach?
Yep.
So yeah, there are better coaches, and hopefully we got the guys. But again, it's one of those things where it's like that's an easy thing to say too, when it's just like, oh yeah, the coaches and we got the right coach now, so this O-line will be set. It's a combo, right? You definitely still need the talent. So, but yeah, no, 100%, man. It definitely comes down to.
Hey Ryan, answer a couple more of these. I'll be right back.
Okay, let's let me pop in. Let's go down a few. Here's another one from replying to Dogzilla. I think Dahlman had set his sights on going to Chicago. Rumor has it he turned down higher offers to go there. Yeah, I mean that's what we thought the whole time too. It's again, this is not a we're gonna make excuses here for John Schneider and say, hey man, like, what are you doing? Just toss money out there. But I think sometimes it comes down to the player and where he wants to go. Not everybody wants to come to Seattle. And I think really when you look at this class as a whole, this not class, but this market of free agents as a whole in this offensive line, it wasn't super deep. So, again, no excuses. I'm in the boat with a lot of you guys as far as, and we've had guys on the show. Just if you're gonna fail a different way. Throw money at guys, toss as much money as you can, and just fail a different way. But they didn't do it. So we are stuck in the same position. It is frustrating because you look at it now, you bring in a Sam Darnold, and you're thinking, man, this guy's just gonna fall flat in his face. And it's great to say, well, let's draft a bunch of rookies, but yeah, it doesn't come together that quickly. So you need a healthy Abe. You need a healthy Cross and Abe as your bookends. That's a guarantee. And then hopefully we get some stepping up from some of these young guys and a combination of the coaching. Because yeah, if as I see it right now, I don't have high hopes for this offensive line at all. So it's a wait and see approach. I mean, I love the I'm just going through the comments here. I love the coaching. I love Kubiak. I love what they're going to try to do. But man, it's going to be interesting to see. You're going to get through a couple more here, guys. Just going through here. Here's another one from WD Ford, and yeah, sometimes we agree with this. PFF is the Benjamin so lack of simulators, man. There's a lot of truth to that. I mean, especially look, I think Cam Ward is going to go first overall by all accounts here. So, to have him available at 18 kind of just tells you right there that the PFS is not the greatest evaluator sometimes. But let's get one right here. Filipino Mad, another one of our members. JS plan is to keep getting coaches fired. Offense sucks. Hire a new OC. He won't get you better players, but the OC takes the blame. Hey, man, again, I see the frustration from people, man. I mean, I get it. I mean, I look at that's why, man, I flip it and say, hey, this defense is going to be the identity, because I really think it will. But, you know, I don't know if his plan is to get coaches fired. I know he's exaggerating on that, but I mean, you look at it, and I think if you say, okay, what's the direction? I think right now, all you can say, and Bryce, I'll get your take on this, but you can kind of say reset. And because we're kind of waiting and seeing. I don't know if you have it. Like, we know Kubiak's the way he likes to run an offense, but I see the frustration, man. I really do.
No, and I 100% understand the frustration to a point. And the thing is, they have to get better players in here that have talent, that fit the scheme they want to run. And that is a big part of what John, I think, is under fire for. And I think he's feeling it from ownership too, on the failed, draft prospects that they've had at a lot of these spots, and where they've neglected the drafting of O-line and stuff. And obviously his comment last year is, something that people still like to write home about. And I see Filipino Matt again comes in and says, saying the O-line coach scheme will turn around is asinine. Turning around a bottom 3 unit with just scheme and coaching is impossible.
Yeah,
you're right. You need players that fit the scheme too, which is a big part of this. So when you talk about scheme, a lot of it is player acquisition, players that fit what you're trying to do. And, coaching can make up for some of the deficiencies if they are good at what they do and understand what they're working with and how they're going to maximize it and try and, not neglect, but basically cover up your weaknesses. And that was one thing that the past coaching staff with Ryan Grubb and Scott Huff were absolutely horrible at. They couldn't cover up the deficiencies. If you have a bad interior O-line, then you cannot be running straight drop back concepts as your only pass and play actioning 5% of the time, if ever, to help that. And that's where they made a slight adjustment in the run game and went gap power. And you saw Charbonnet kind of start to have some success with that. But overall, like, it is definitely a thing where I agree to an extent, but they have to do a better job of acquiring talent for these coaches that are capable of being coached up. And you have to make sure that the coaches you have in place understand the scheme, understand what they need to coach up, so that way you can maximize all the potential of all the assets that are assembled there. So it'll be interesting to see how this offensive reset goes. But let's get into this draft, Ryan, because I've got to get out of here.
Yeah, let's do it. Final thought too is like I said, guys, we're all in agreement with a lot of you guys as the frustration, because I think, again, when you look at it, I think it would have been nice just to do something different. I think that's what people wanted. So it's if anybody has high hopes for this offensive line, then yeah, I agree. We're just fooling ourselves. I think it's like, let's see how we build it up. Let's see if this coaching can change it a little bit. We got to get to this one real quick though before you jump into it. Really appreciate this. This is a huge super chat coming from me. Really appreciate that. Super
wow,
chat.
thank you.
Just throwing a little Dono for therapeutic services you boys are providing. Go Hawks, go 12s. Hey, much appreciated.
Thank you so much, me.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. So, guys, keep the comments coming and flooding them in. We'll try to toss a few up as we do this last mock here. Yeah, let's get to the next one.
Yeah, so we'll get into this one. So I'm just going to bring it up. So we're going to use a different simulator on this one, just because PFF, as so many have pointed out, is the Benjamin Slowick of
yeah, I read that when you were in the
so I saw that one come up. So we're going to use the NFL mock draft database simulator. So we'll do 7 rounds, fast, speed, standard, all that good stuff. We'll take our Seahawks, and again, trades are available to us in this one, guys. We may take them, we may not. All right, so we'll start this trade off, or this draft, I should say. Okay, so the Ravens have offered us a boatload for us to move back a few spots. So let's just have a look and see what's here. So And the one thing I don't like about this simulator is it doesn't really show you who's been taken off the board. It kind of causes a problem that way. So, all right. So who we got? Tyler Warren. I don't think he's there. I'm sorry, everyone. I do not think Tyler Warren will be there.
No.
At 18, no. And
if
same
he's
with
there at 18,
Jihad
you run to the podium at 18.
Now, Jihad Campbell is interesting to me because I think he can play edge and he can be a Swiss Army knife. Mike Green is here. I don't think he'll be there. Malachi Starks, Kenneth Grant, Nick Emamori.
Same with Colson Loveland that you just browsed over to.
He's here too.
That would be a stretch.
I think there's a higher chance Loveland's there than there is of Tyler.
Oh, I agree with that.
So, for the sake of this, there's other guys here, suggestions of different, like Jackson Dart's here, Gray Zabel's here. I'm going to say that we take an offensive lineman this time. So, are we taking Gray Zabel here at 18? A lot of people want that.
Yeah, I mean, if Zabel's there,
I think they take Zabel. I think he may be a fit. So, let's take Gray Zabel here at 18. All right, and as this board falls, we're back up right now. Okay, so no, we're not taking that. We're not taking that. We're not taking that. There's no good offers here from anybody. So, all right. So again, Azare Thomas is there, a corner. I wouldn't mind looking at the edge class. Landon Jackson's here. This edge class really got picked over fast. Wow. Tyleek Williams is here, Alfred Collins. So those are guys we can look at on the D-line side of things. I don't really think Josh Connerly's a fit. I just, looking at this, this is tough. This is a much harder simulator. I'm going to look at this and go, okay, what's the receiver group look like? So, A.O. Manor's still there. Trey Harris, Jack Besh. I really like
Besh. Is interesting. I like Besh too. He's a solid receiver. Especially, we're not looking for a number one receiver in this draft.
And we drafted our interior O-line so we can get another guy later on.
Yeah.
I think we take corner again here and go Azare Thomas because it'll drop off and we have a pick right back. We can come back and I think we can get Besh.
Yeah, opposed the other way around, right?
So there he is. So we'll take Jack Besh here.
Okay, so you got your interior corner
receiver, and now we're gonna go. I don't know if we're gonna get an edge that we like, so I'm not even bothered because these trades now get ridiculous. So let's take a look at the edge. I do like Aladejio out of UCLA. I really like him, and I think he's an edge prospect that we can take here. And if I look at tight end, Mason Taylor, like the tight end group's still good. We've addressed receiver, we've addressed corner. Interior D-line, there's guys like Jordan Phillips is in here I really still like. There's a lot, I always call him Pegasus, but Pegasus is still there. Ty Hamilton, there's a lot of guys. So I say we take Aladejio here. Okay, so we got him. So now we're up with our next pick. And again, there's no really good trade offers here because we're not doing anything for 2026. There's no point. Okay, so we go back to the all board. Now, Cameron Williams is still on here. So is Jalen Noel. Quinn Ewers is still here. Now, QB. So Quinn Ewers, Kyle McCord. And again, this is the range I see a Quinn Ewers going is this round of, round 3 area. Like, Will Howard's already gone. Like, you can see the QBs have already kind of been picked over.
Yeah.
But I want to look at tight end. So Gunnar Helm's still there. Mitchell Evans. Interior O-line, Jackson Slater still there. Charles Grant still there. Tackle.
Who's left at Q? Who's still there at QB?
Quinn Ewers, Kyle McCord. Riley Leonard is someone I'm actually getting more and more high on.
So kind of like the same situation we're in. You got two guys with Ewers that, and we pick. Yeah,
so
this is kind of
you're kind of in an interesting spot.
be kind of the spot.
We
I
have
mean,
92, and then we're not on the board again. We have a big drop to 137.
that's what I'm saying. So I don't think like if he's set on like a Ewers, you take him here.
Yeah,
Because
if
I
he
don't
is
think-
going to take a Q, this will be the
if
point
he's
because
gonna
he's
take
not
a
going to
Q.
wait for this.
So I mean, what do you think, dude? I mean, you think he's going to take a Q? Like if Ewers was there here at 92, do you think?
So this is my view of it, and I'm actually going to do a short on it coming up here in a day or two. I think there is a higher chance whoever they draft is coming in to compete with Sam Howell than they are coming in to compete with Sam Darnold.
I agree with that, especially this late in the game.
I think we got to take a tight end here, and I think it's probably got to be Gunnar Helm. Because you do have other guys like Jackson Hawes and Mitchell Evans that are guys you can take, but Gunnar Helm, even though he didn't perform well at the combine with a massive sprained ankle, he provides a little bit of something different here. Unless we go like see receivers, there's still a lot of receivers here. Like, damn.
Yeah, so I
Like
mean,
a Jalen Noel or a Jalen Royals here.
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, you want to fill that tight end room a little more. I mean, this could be the spot.
Yeah, let's go tight end. So we'll take Gunnar Helm here.
Okay. So now we're all the way down to pick 117.
Or we'll be down to 137.
137. Right. Okay. Yeah. So there's a nice gap there.
There's a big gap. So we're gonna find out real quick who's all going off the board here. All right. So the Chargers pick. Nope. I don't like any of the trades. Okay. So we've got interior line, cornerback, receiver, edge, tight end. So this is where I think Jordan Phillips makes sense because he's a big D lineman. Like we're plugging him in there and he's going to create some havoc and paired with a Jaron Reed, with a Byron Murphy. I think this makes, a big thing too. Safeties. There's no safeties in here that I really want. I think we go Jordan Phillips here. So
yeah, I agree.
Jordan Phillips. And now we come back on the board here at some point, and this is where we can look and see. Okay, so I'm not even going to bother. There weren't any trades.
Yeah.
And this is where I like Mondon Jr. Again, him or Jack Kaiser, one of these two, I think are great linebackers. I think Mondon's got a little bit more athleticism to him. So I think we can take him here, and we're going to get a good value pick. And this guy comes in again. He can sub in for a night. He brings you a little bit more than Drake Thomas, and he can contribute on special teams right away. And he's in Georgia. He's going to know his ball. Coming from Kirby Smart's system.
Yeah.
I really like his tape too, so we're going to take him.
So down your last two picks. We don't have a.
We've got how many picks left do we got here? We've got 3 picks left.
Three picks. Okay.
So QB, Riley Leonard, Kyle McCord's still here. Interior O-line, I really like Luke Kandra from Cincinnati.
I think you got to go interior. I think we still got to add players.
Like Jack Nelson's a swing tackle. I think I might take in this because I don't think I'm taking a quarterback in this one. I think there's still too much value on the board.
Not at this point. I think. Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. I think you're looking at the interior line. What else we got?
So saying quarterback, they're saying a safety here.
Yeah,
potentially running back. Running back group still really deep.
I think, like you said, I think like last time, I think we take it back, but it's not at this pick.
This is where I'm going to probably in this draft, I'm going to try and take Ricky White. Again, I like his skill set fitting in this offense, but we're going to go with Kandra here. Okay, and then we'll come back to our picks, see how they shape up with this. All right, so as it comes around. Okay, so receiver, Ricky White's still there. Perfect. QB, Riley Leonard still here. Now, I could take Riley Leonard with one of these last 2 picks. But I'm also going to look at tackle because I think we need a swing tackle. Mike Jarrell's there. I get it. They signed Jones this offseason. I don't know if Jones is the guy. It'll be interesting. I'm not sold on either one of those two as our swing tackles of the future. Like Jack Nelson comes out of Wisconsin. He's got some, good skills. When you look at corner here, again, there's not much. Like maybe Muhammad, but I'm not really sold safety wise. Like, there's not really anything. D-line. I'm just trying to look here and see. I noticed our chat, everyone's talking about the D lineman out of Florida, the big boy. Let's just have a look. I think here we probably are taking a receiver just to throw another, kind of at the board, a dart at the board, and I'm going to take Ricky White here. I like his skill set. He's another guy later on that I think has some potential. Now let's take a look at this running back group. So
I can't believe how big that dude is, though. You what?
Oh, I know, it's ridiculous.
Come on, man.
So I like LaQuinton Allen Jr. out of Syracuse. I think he's got some good things. Desmond Watson, thank you, Ian Victor, for putting that in the chat. So QB wise, we could take Riley Leonard with our last pick. Do you want to take a quarterback in round 7, or do you think we address something else?
I mean, I wouldn't either way. I think we address something else, man. I'd like to see something else in there. That at this point, like you said, compete with Sam Howell. I mean,
let's take that draft. Let's take, that Jack Nelson here. We'll take another lineman. We'll take a swing tackle.
Right.
We'll add that. We'll add a receiver. Like, is there an edge player here maybe? RJ Oben from Notre Dame's interesting. He has a lot of physical abilities, but the production just hasn't come through.
Right.
We took a linebacker. We've dressed. Yeah, let's take Jack Nelson here.
All right.
So that's our draft.
That's A+. Hey, better grade with this simulator.
Exactly, much better grade with this simulator. Apparently, we got and the board I think fell a little bit more realistically. Obviously, there's two guys.
Well, Warren, no, yeah.
So I overall like it. Like, so again, for our chat, 18, we didn't trade back. None of the trades we got offered, we liked, and we took Gray Zabel. We addressed our corner of the future room, which I know MWM will love in Azare Thomas. We got a receiver that I think is going to come in, and he's going to be a really good piece in this offense in Jack Besh. We took Olu Aladagio out of UCLA, who I think, again, can play edge, but also played middle linebacker for them. So he's going to give you a little bit of something there. We took a tight end in Gunnar Helm. We addressed the interior D-line and got a big player in there in Jordan Phillips. We got a linebacker in Moden Jr. Again, we came back to the O-line. I like Luke Kandra. I know some people put Clay Webb in there. I like them both. I have Kandra higher rated than I do Clay Webb, not by much, but by enough. Came back and got another receiver to help out this core and add to it in Ricky White. And then last pick, instead of taking a QB, we went Jack Nelson as a swing tackle and a hedge against Abe Lucas there in the 7th round. So overall, like, between the two, I actually like this draft better, and we didn't take a quarterback.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, the quarterback situation is not a dire need at this point right now. So especially with this class, right? If it was last year, we might be having a different conversation here, but overall, I like it too. So you know what? There's going to be a few more of these guys. Appreciate everyone chiming in. We're going to get a couple just before we get out of here, just hitting the super chats real quick. Do you want to comment on this?
Oh, Dogzilla. Yes. It was a joke between Bob Stelton, Dave Weinman, and John Schneider. Schmaghetti is basically a guy they made up in their brain when someone asked them something in the comments, I guess, on 710's feed, and Dave Weinman kind of made up. It was a funny joke at the time, so I would go back and listen to it, and it'll make some sense if you go back and listen to it.
Right, and then just last one, I don't know if you want to comment on this one too. Super chat, WD4, appreciate it. Always popping in the chats. Here, who reported CB was the choice of not BM last year?
Reported CB was the choice. I'm confused by that.
Just seeing if you can, we want to see if you can make that one up. WD Ford, if you're still here, man, do you want to shed a little bit?
Yeah, elaborate on that one for us.
We can help you out. We'll just get a couple more minutes here. So we're just going to, if you come in here, we'll we'll try to help you out. But appreciate the super chat. Guys, appreciate everybody coming in on the comments today, man. This was fun. Just knocked off a lot of things. WD Ford said cornerback.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that part. I think it was the
What's the BM
part, the BM part. So yeah, I know with CB we got, but trying to figure out the rest of it. But he'll come in with it. Yeah, guys, look, we got some cool shows coming up.
Oh, now it makes sense. Okay.
Byron Murphy. Okay.
I can't remember actually. That's a good point. Now that you've explained that, thank you.
Just baby mama. Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Byron.
Yeah. They are like that was something that was reported last year. I can't remember who said it. I think it was I believe they were looking at Mitchell. That's who I believe they were looking at, and they fell in love with Byron Murphy. I think they had Byron, as John Stein alluded, the highest graded defensive player on their board was Byron Murphy. So I think if they had not taken Murphy, that was their next pick was Mitchell, Quinyon Mitchell. There you go. Misfit.
Yeah, man, just jogging our memories a little bit. I think real quick, I think the Quinyon Mitchell thing, yeah, I mean, that was a guy we talked about. But I also go back to, say, a year ago where we really thought our cornerback room was a lot healthier too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it was kind of one of those things where now, maybe things would fall a little differently. I don't know. Cooper DeJean, yeah, man, Cooper's a stud. I loved him last year, and I was just like, man, if the Hawks could get him, absolute stud. Yeah, Philly just keeps doing things right. What can we say? We did a whole show about Philly, if you guys saw that one. So yeah, trust me, we think highly of how they do things, how they do business. But yeah, guys, appreciate it all, man. The comments, questions, got a couple cool mock drafts, hit on a few other things. Appreciate everyone chiming in. It was a fun back and forth with you guys. We got some cool shows coming up. Rob Staten coming back on the show, man. Like, awesome time of year to have Rob on. He is one of our favorites, just friend of the show, and he's just one of our favorite guests to have on the show. And you want to talk about draft guy? This guy's the perfect guy to have on the show. So he's going to break down a lot of stuff, and we might even get a little bit of a mock going in with Rob too. So that's going to be coming up. Check that out. That's not going to be live, but that's going to be dropping in the next couple of days. So look out for that. And then of course, we got Pulse of the Hawks coming back with Mookie Alexander, and we just got a lot of cool things coming up leading up to the draft. We're also going to have Bryce. You can touch on this before we go. Talk about the draft party real quick before we get.
Yeah. So guys, day 1 and day 2, we're going to do a draft party live. We'll have it streaming. We'll discuss the picks. We'll have different guests come on. Dan Viens will be one. Some other guys will potentially come on as well, and we'll just sit here live with you guys. You guys can bring all your questions, how you feel about how the draft's going and stuff, any of your thoughts. And we'll just have a fun go at it while the draft's going on. So we'll have a Hawk Zone rundown draft party this year.
Awesome. Yeah, that's going to be awesome. It's going to be a crazy month. April's going to get nutty. So we're looking forward to it. It's a fun time of the year. So appreciate everybody that's been tuning in. Don't forget to sub the channel, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.